Howdy, and welcome to today's Clear Measure webinar. I'm excited about this topic. It has so many good outcomes for so many teams and so many consequences if we don't have the right processes and practices in place to keep our software teams moving quickly. My name is Jeffrey Palermo, and I'm going to be your host for today. And I'm a chief architect here at Clear Measure, and also been a Microsoft MVP since 2006. And I've been for a long time been helping a number of clients over just I'm going to reference kind of the past decade here at Clear Measure with software team productivity, or in a lot of cases a lack thereof. There's a macro shift that's happening in the business world, and many businesses have decided to have internal software development teams, and even non-tech companies. And over the last, 25 years, a lot of non-technical companies have outsourced the creation of software, and they've lost a lot of money. We've had the whole, overseas outsourcing thing that took a while to even get right for that model. But a lot of companies didn't get what they thought they were going to get, and they've shifted to operating software engineering teams in-house by hiring some of their own programmers. They consider custom software to be strategic for them, but they want more control over everything. They want more control by having their own employees in-house, becoming experts in their own business. And as a result, these companies, they've become frustrated, and they feel like they've lost control, because even though they have their own people, they're not getting the problem fixed in some cases. Some of them are frustrated that having that in-house team doesn't actually increase the pace of software delivery or solve every one of their problems. And so the goal of this webinar is to go over the common categories that consume the time and capacity of software teams everywhere. And my hope is that once you understand where all of your team's time is going, then you can make decisions to change and redirect the efforts to get the progress that you really want. And we have a really good crowd on our webinar today, and I know we have people who follow our webinar series. But if you're just getting acquainted with Clear Measure, we're a software architecture company that exists to empower software delivery everywhere. But our mission is to enable the in-house .NET teams to be self-sufficient, so that those teams, so that you can establish quality, you can achieve the stability that you need in production, and you can increase the speed of delivery on a constant basis. And we do this through our Clear Measure way for effective software teams. And it's a collection of measures and principles and practices that, when put together, reliably increase a team's quality, stability, delivered, and speed, and make that team highly effective. And we really believe that when equipped and trained properly, every team can be successful. So you can ask more about that later. It's a drop-in process and methodology. It starts really simply with an assessment, and we go from there. Now, freebie, if interested, that this isn't specifically about it, but there's a lot of content in the book, .NET DevOps for Azure. It's a few years old at this point, but if it's interesting for you to have a free electronic copy of the book, then by all means, send me an email, or you can just put it in the chat. And Melanie is assisting me on the webinar, so she'll see that chat message and can take that request for an electronic copy of the book. And also, I host a podcast called the Azure DevOps Podcast, and you can pretty much search for Azure or for DevOps in any of the podcast directories, and this podcast will be kind of right there at the top of the list. And also, there's another video channel called Programming with Palermo, and it's in the podcast directories and also on YouTube. And has I get to teach, and on the Azure DevOps Podcast, I interview experts, and I really enjoy that. But on the Programming with Palermo video podcast, I get to actually do the hands-on teaching, so that's fun for me. And Um, we'll keep kind of moving on. So let's get we're going to get back into the content right after I push up this poll here, and we have just want to kind of get to know who you are as an audience, what version of .NET that you're using, and what do you primarily do? Do you work on the software coding all day? Do you lead or help lead the software team, or are you outside of the actual software team and company management? And let us know that, along with who's using .NET Framework 4, 3.5, and who's using .NET Core or .NET 5, 6, or 7. And of course, .NET 8 is coming out in November. So every year we're getting a new Visual Studio, we're getting a new .NET Framework, and whatnot. So kind of leave that up for a second, but there's a lot of software teams that we see here at ClearMeasure as we help these companies build effective software teams in-house. We see that those teams, when they come and meet us, are not moving at the pace that their companies would like. And one of the ClearMeasure Way tools is a self-assessment. It's easy to find on the ClearMeasure website. And one of the subjective questions included is, are you happy with the pace of delivery of your software team? And most respondents, when they start with us, they're not able to answer yes. And so we're going to talk about that. That is the topic of today's today's webinar. So let me just move on to the next slide and kind of move along. Got some pretty pictures, and I kind of follow the Baja 1000 race, so I like that stuff. But